Three sisters, ages 92, 94, and 96, live in a house together. One night, the 96-year-old draws a bath. She puts her foot in and pauses. She yells down the stairs, "Was I getting in or out of the bath?" The 94-year-old yells back, "I don't know, I'll come up and see." She starts up the stairs and pauses. "Was I going up the stairs or down?" The 92-year-old is sitting at the kitchen table, having tea listening to her sisters. She shakes her head and says, "I sure hope I never get that forgetful." She knocks on wood for good measure. She then yells, "I'll come up and help both of you as soon as I see who's at the door." A man woke up in the morning deeply repentant after a bitter fight with his wife the previous night. He noticed with dismay the crate of beer bottles that had caused the fight. He took it outside and started smashing the empty bottles one by one onto the wall. He smashed the first bottle, swearing, "You are the reason I fight with my wife." He smashed the second bottle. "You are the reason I don't love my children." He smashed the third bottle. "You are the reason I don't have a decent job." When he took the fourth bottle, he realized that the bottle was still sealed and was full. He hesitated for only a moment and said, "You stand aside. I know you were not involved." Two elderly women were out driving in a large car. Both could barely see over the dashboard. As they were cruising along, they came to an intersection. The stoplight was red, but they just went on through. The woman in the passenger seat thought to herself, "I must be losing it. I could have sworn we just went through a red light." After a few more minutes, they came to another intersection and the light was red. Again, they went right through. The woman in the passenger seat was almost sure that the light had been red, but was really concerned that she was losing it. She was getting nervous. At the next intersection, sure enough, the light was red, and they went on through. So, she turned to the other woman and said, "Mildred, did you know that we just ran through 3 red lights in a row? You could have killed us both." Mildred turned to her and said, "Oh crap, am I driving?" Ben went on a safari with his wife and mother-in-law. One evening, while still deep in the jungle, Mrs. awoke to find her mother gone. Rushing to her husband, she insisted on them both trying to find her mother. Ben picked up his rifle, took a swig of whiskey and started to look for her. In a clearing not far from the camp, they came upon a chilling sight. The mother-in-law was backed up against a thick, impenetrable bush, and a large male lion stood facing her. The wife said, "What are we going to do?" "Nothing," said Ben. "The lion got himself into this mess. Let him get himself out of it." A government employee sat in his office and, out of boredom, decided to see what was inside his old filing cabinet. He poked through the contents and came across an old brass lamp he's never seen before. "This will look good on my mantle," he said, and took it home with him. While polishing the lamp, a genie suddenly appeared. "Noble sir," he thundered, "you have 3 wishes you may ask of me." "All right," said the government clerk. "I would like an ice-cold Coke right now." He gets his Coke and drinks it. Now that he can think more clearly, he states his second wish. "I wish to be on an island with beautiful women who find me irresistible." Suddenly, he's on an island with gorgeous women eyeing him lustfully. He tells the genie his third and last wish. "I wish I'd never have to work again." Instantly, he was back in his government office. Jacob, age 85, and Rebecca, age 79, are all excited about their decision to get married. They go for a stroll to discuss the wedding, and on the way, go past a drugstore. Jacob suggests that they go in. He addresses the man behind the counter. "Are you the owner?" The pharmacist answers, "Yes." Jacob, "Do you sell heart medication?" Pharmacist, "Of course we do." Jacob, "How about medicine for circulation?" Pharmacist, "All kinds." Jacob, "Medicine for rheumatism?" Pharmacist, "Definitely." Jacob, "How about Viagra?" Pharmacist, "Of course." Jacob, "Medicine for memory?" Pharmacist, "Yes, a large variety." Jacob, "What about vitamins and sleeping pills?" The pharmacist, "Absolutely." Jacob, "Perfect. We'd like to register here for our wedding gifts." Taking his seat in his chambers, the judge faced the opposing lawyers. "So," he said, "I have been presented by both of you with a bribe." Both lawyers squirmed uncomfortably. "You, Attorney Leon, gave me $15,000. And you, Attorney Campos, gave me $10,000. The judge reached into his pocket and pulled out a check. He handed it to Leon. "Now then, I'm returning $5,000, and we're going to decide this case solely on its merits." The famous colonel called up the Pope and asks him for a favor. "What can I do for you?" said the Pope. The colonel said, "Holy Father, I need you to change the daily prayer from 'Give us this day our daily bread' to 'Give us this day our daily chicken.' If you do that, I swear I will donate $10 million to the Vatican." The Pope replied, "I am very sorry. That's the Lord's Prayer, and it isn't something I can just change the words for." So the colonel, disappointed, hung up. After another month of bad sales, the colonel panicked and called again. "Listen, Your Excellency, I really need your help. I'll donate $50 million if you change the words of the daily prayer from 'Give us this day our daily bread' to 'Give us this day our daily chicken.'" And the Pope responded, "It is very tempting, Colonel Sanders. The church could do a lot of good with that much money. It would help us to support many charities. But again, I must decline. It is the Lord's Prayer, and I can't change the words." So the colonel gave up again. After 2 more months of terrible sales, the colonel got desperate. "This is my final offer, Your Excellency. If you change the words of the daily prayer from 'Give us this day our daily bread' to 'Give us this day our daily chicken,' I will donate $100 million to the Vatican." The Pope replied, "Let me get back to you." So the next day, the Pope called together all of his bishops and said, "I have some good news and I have some bad news. The good news is that KFC is going to donate $100 million to the Vatican." The bishops rejoiced at the news. Then one asked about the bad news. The Pope replied, "The bad news is that we lost the Wonder Bread account." An old geezer, who had been a retired farmer for a long time, became very bored and decided to open a medical clinic. He put a sign up outside that said, "Get your treatment for $500. If not cured, get back $1,000. Dr. Young, who was positive that this old geezer didn't know beans about medicine, thought this would be a great opportunity to get $1,000. He went to Dr. Geezer's clinic, and this is what happened. Dr. Young: "Dr. Geezer, I have lost all taste in my mouth. Can you please help me?" Dr. Geezer: "Nurse, Please bring medicine from box 22 and put 3 drops in Dr. Young's mouth. Dr. Young. Ah, this is gasoline. Dr. Geezer. Congratulations. You've got your taste back. That will be $500. Dr. Young gets annoyed and goes back after a couple of days, figuring to recover his money. Dr. Young. I have lost my memory. I cannot remember anything. Dr. Geezer. Nurse, please bring medicine from box 22 and put 3 drops in the patient's mouth. Dr. Young. Oh, no, you don't. That's gasoline. Dr. Geezer. Congratulations. You've got your memory back. That will be $500. Dr. Young, after having lost $1,000, leaves angrily and comes back after several more days. Dr. Young. My eyesight has become weak. I can hardly see. Dr. Geezer. Well, I don't have any medicine for that, so here's your $1,000 back. Dr. Young. But this is only $500. Dr. Geezer. Congratulations. You got your vision back. That will be $500. Moral of the story. Just because you're young doesn't mean that you can outsmart an old geezer. An 85-year-old couple, married for almost 60 years, died in a car crash. They had been in good health the last 10 years, mainly as a result of her interest in health food and exercise. When they reached the pearly gates, St. Peter took them to their mansion, which was decked out with a beautiful kitchen and a master bath suite with a sauna and jacuzzi. As they oohed and ahed, the old man asked Peter how much all this was going to cost. It's free, Peter replied. This is heaven. Next, they went out back to survey the championship golf course that the home backed up to. They would have golfing privileges every day, and each week the course would change to a new one that represented one of the great golf courses on earth. The old man asked, "What are the green fees?" Peter's reply, "This is heaven, you play for free." Next, they went to the clubhouse and saw the lavish buffet, lunch with the cuisines of the world laid out. "How much to eat?" asked the old man. "Don't you understand yet? This is heaven. It is free," Peter replied with some exasperation. "Well, where are the low-fat and low-cholesterol tables?" the old man asked timidly. Peter lectured, "That's the best part. You can eat as much as you like, of whatever you like, and you never get fat, and you never get sick. This is heaven." With that, the old man threw down his hat, stomped on it, and shrieked wildly. Peter and his wife both tried to calm him down, asking him what was wrong. The old man looked at his wife and said, "This is all your fault. If it weren't for your blasted bran muffins, I could have been here 10 years ago." Three bulls heard via the grapevine that the rancher was going to bring yet another bull onto the ranch, and the prospect raised a discussion among them. First bull: "Boys, we all know I've been here 5 years. Once we settled our differences, we agreed on which 100 of the cows would be mine. Now, I don't know where this newcomer's going to get his cows, but I ain't giving him any of mine." Second bull: "That pretty much says it for me too. I've been here 3 years and have earned my right to the 50 cows we've agreed are mine. I'll fight him till I run him off or kill him, but I'm keeping all my cows." Third bull: "I've only been here a year, and so far you guys have only let me have 10 cows to take care of. I may not be as big as you fellows, yet But I am young and virile, so I simply must keep all my cows." They had just finished their big talk when an 18-wheeler pulls up in the middle of the pasture with only one animal in it, the biggest son of another bull these guys had ever seen. At 4,700 pounds, each step he took toward the ground strained the steel ramp to the breaking point. First bull: it's actually been some time since I really felt I was doing all my cows justice anyway. I think I can spare a few for our new friend." Second bull: "I'll have plenty of cows to take care of if I just stay on the opposite end of the pasture from him. I'm certainly not looking for an argument." They look over at their young friend, the third bull, and find him pawing the dirt, shaking his horns, and snorting. First bull: "Son, let me give you some advice real quick. Let him have some of your cows and live to tell about it." Two elderly ladies had been friends for many decades. Over the years, they had shared all kinds of activities and adventures. Lately, their activities had been limited to meeting a few times a week to play cards. One day, they were playing cards when one looked at the other and said, "Now don't get mad at me. I know we've been friends for a long time, but I just can't think of your name. I've thought and thought, but I can't remember it. Please tell me what your name is." Her friend glared at her for at least 3 minutes. She just stared and glared at her. Finally, she said, "How soon do you need to know?" Kenny, a city boy, moved to the country and purchased a donkey from an old farmer for $100. The farmer agreed to deliver the donkey the following day. The next morning, the farmer drove up and said, "Sorry, son, but I have some bad news. The donkey died." "Well, just return my money to me," Kenny said. "Sorry, can't do that," said the farmer. "I already spent it." "Okay then, just unload the donkey," said Kenny. "What you gonna do with him?" asked the farmer. "I'm gonna raffle him off," Kenny replied. "You can't raffle off a dead donkey," the farmer exclaimed. "Of course I can," replied Kenny. "Watch me. I just won't tell anybody he is dead." A few weeks later, the farmer met up with Kenny and asked, "So, what happened with the dead donkey?" "I raffled him off. I sold 500 tickets at $2 apiece and made a profit of $898, explained Kenny. "Didn't anyone complain?" inquired the farmer. "Just the guy who won. So I gave him his $2 back," Kenny proudly replied. On a warm evening, a man walks into a bar one night. He goes up to the cheerful-looking bartender and asks for his favorite premium beer. "Certainly, sir. That'll be 1 cent." "1 single penny?" exclaimed the man. The barman replied, "Yes, sir. Just 1 penny." As he takes the glass of delicious beer and takes a satisfying gulp, the guy glances over at the menu and asks, "Could I have a nice, juicy T-bone steak with fries, peas, and a salad?" "Certainly, sir," replies the bartender. "But all that comes to real money." "How much money?" inquires the guy. 4 cents, he replies. 4 cents? Exclaims the guy. "Where's the guy who owns this place?" The barman replies, "Upstairs with my wife." The guy asks, "What's he doing with your wife?" The bartender replies, same as what I'm doing to his business. Little Johnny and Billy were engaging in the time-honored tradition of a verbal battle, like little boys all over the world. "My father is better than your father," Billy declared. "No, he's not," Johnny responded. "My brother is better than you, brother," Billy said. "He is not, he is not," yelled little Johnny. "My mother is better than your mother," Billy continued. A long pause ensued. Then little Johnny said, "Well, I guess you got me there. I've heard my father say the same thing more than once." An elderly Floridian called 911 on her cell phone to report that her car has been broken into. She is hysterical as she explains her situation to the dispatcher. "They've stolen the stereo, the steering wheel, the brake pedal, and even the accelerator," she cried. The dispatcher said, "Stay calm, an officer is on the way." A few minutes later, the officer radios in disregard. He says, "She got in the back seat by mistake." An old French lady had a small shop in her village for years, until one day a huge corporate supermarket set up across the road from her little shop. They put up signs advertising their prices, including one that said, "Butter, 10 francs." In response, the old lady added a sign to her own window, "Butter, 9 francs." The next day, the big supermarket had a new sign, "Butter, 8 francs." Sure enough, the day after the lady's sign now read, "Butter, 7 francs." This went on for a while until eventually one of the lady's customers pointed to the sign and said, "Madame, you cannot keep your prices so low for long. These big companies can use their buying power to sell products cheaper, but a little store like yours can never compete." In response, the old lady bent forward conspiratorially and muttered, "Monsieur, I don't even sell butter." Bob, a 70-year-old, extremely wealthy widower, shows up at the country club with a breathtakingly beautiful and very 25-year-old blonde-haired woman who knocks everyone's socks off with her youthful appeal and charm, and who hangs over Bob's arm and listens intently to his every word. His buddies at the club are all aghast. At their very first chance, they corner him and ask, "Bob, how would you get the trophy girlfriend?" Bob replied, "Girlfriend? She's my wife." They're knocked over, but continue to ask, "So, how would you persuade her to marry you?" "I lied about my age," Bob replied. "What? Did you tell her you were only 50? Bob smiled and said, "No, I told her I was 90. An elderly man traveling by plane was in urgent need of a restroom facility. But each time he tried, it was occupied. The flight attendant, aware of his predicament, suggested he use the attendant's ladies' room, but cautioned him not to press any of the buttons. There, next to the paper roll, were 4 buttons marked WW, WA, PP, and ATR. Making the mistake so many men make of not listening to a woman, he disregarded what she said when his curiosity got the best of him. He carefully pressed the WW button, and immediately a gentle flush of warm water sprayed on his bare bottom. He thought, "Wow, these gals really have it nice." So a little more boldly, he pressed the WA button and body temperature. Warm air blew across his wet bottom and dried it comfortably. "Aha," he thought. No wonder these women take so long in the bathroom with these kinds of services. So he pushed the next button PP with anticipation. A soft, disposable powder puff swung below him and dusted his bottom lightly with talc. Man, this is great, he thought, as he reaches out for the ATR button. When he awoke in the hospital, the morphine was just wearing off. Confused, he buzzed the nurse to find out what happened. He explained the last thing he remembered was intense pain in the ladies' room on the plane. The nurse explained, "Yes, you must have been having a great time until you pushed the automatic tampon removal button. By the way, your pen is under your pillow." A couple in their 90s are both having problems remembering things. During a checkup, the doctor tells them that they're physically okay, but they might want to start writing things down to help them remember. Later that night, while watching TV, the old man gets up from his chair. "Want anything while I'm in the kitchen?" he asks. "Will you get me a bowl of ice cream?" "Sure." "Don't you think you should write it down so you can remember it?" she asks. "No, I can remember it." "Well, I'd like some strawberries on top too. Maybe you should write it down so as not to forget it?" He says, "I can remember that. You want a bowl of ice cream with strawberries?" "I'd also like whipped cream. I'm certain you'll forget that. Write it down?" she asks. Irritated, he says, "I don't need to write it down. I can remember it. Ice cream with strawberries and whipped cream. I got it, for goodness sake." Then he toddles into the kitchen. After about 20 minutes, the old man returns from the kitchen and hands his wife a plate of bacon and eggs. She stares at the plate for a moment. "Where's my toast?" A man walked into a restaurant and ordered a glass of white wine. He took a sip of the wine, then tossed the remainder into the waiter face. Before the waiter could recover from the surprise, the man began weeping. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm really sorry. I keep doing that to waiter. I can't tell you how embarrassing it is to have a compulsion like this." Far from being angry, the waiter was sympathetic. Before long, he was suggesting that the man see an analyst about his problem. "I happen to have the name of a psychoanalyst," the waiter said. "My brother and my wife have both been treated by him, and they say he's as good as they get." The man wrote down the name of the doctor, thanked the waiter, and left. The waiter smiled, knowing he'd done a good deed for a fellow human being. 6 months later, the man was back. "Did you do what I suggested?" the waiter asked, serving the glass of white wine. "I certainly did," the man said. "I've been seeing the psychoanalyst twice a week." He took a sip of the wine. Then he threw the remainder into the waiter face. The flustered waiter wiped his face with a towel. "The doctor doesn't seem to be doing you any good," he sputtered. "On the contrary," the man claimed, "he's done me a world of good." "But you threw the wine in my face again," the waiter exclaimed. "Yes," the man replied, "but it doesn't embarrass me any more." Johnny noticed that Jimmy was wearing a brand new, shiny watch. "Did you get that for your birthday?" asked Johnny. "Nope," replied Jimmy. "Well, did you get it for Christmas then?" Again, Jimmy said. "Nope." "You didn't steal it, did you?" asked Johnny. "No," said Jimmy. "I went into Mom and Dad's bedroom the other night when they were doing the nasty. Dad gave me his watch to get rid of me." Johnny was extremely impressed with this idea and extremely jealous of Jimmy's new watch. He vowed to get one for himself. That night, he waited outside his parents' bedroom until he heard the unmistakable noises of lovemaking. Just then, he swung the door wide open and boldly strode into the bedroom. His father, caught in mid-stroke, turned and said angrily, "What do you want now?" "I want a watch," Johnny replied. Without missing a stroke, his father said, "Fine. Stand in the corner and watch, but keep quiet."